Today, I'll tell you about how a political tsunami is starting to cleanse America. 6 days ago, the killer of Charlie Kirk and his accomplices thought that by removing the leader of the movement, they would silence the voice of reason. Instead, something happened that seems likely to turn America upside down and possibly Europe as well. By the way, Charlie was a force in life, but after his death, he became dozens of times stronger. Listen until the end today, and you'll understand what a powerful tsunami his death has caused. And this, as they said on Newsmax, is just the tip of the iceberg.
So, as you all know, Charlie Kirk was not just another political commentator. At the age of 31, he turned Turning Point United States of America into a conservative empire covering more than 850 student chapters. His organization was recognized for registering tens of thousands of new voters and helping Trump win in Arizona. President Trump himself understood Charlie's unique value, stating that no one understood the heart of America's youth like he did. I mean, it wasn't just political rhetoric. It was recognition of a young man who radically changed the way conservatives engage with young Americans. Now, Charlie's debates on campuses were not just intellectual exercises, they were also highly effective recruitment operations. Videos of him challenging liberal students have gained millions of views, creating what conservative youth leaders called a permission structure for young conservatives. Speaking openly, as one of the Republican leaders, Charlie Kirk noted, gave a generation of conservatives the confidence to express their beliefs openly in classrooms, on campuses, and in public forums. And now, after his terrible murder, it seems that Charlie's already remarkable influence is only just beginning.
Charlie's influence was not only in the fact that he debated well, answered questions, and never got irritated. He respected his interlocutors' opinions, a rare quality. Charlie came into a zombified, closed society, specifically the Society of Universities and Colleges, where any dissent was persecuted and where the word conservative was equivalent to idiot, fascist, or scoundrel, and he started saying things that were forbidden to say there. He began to repeatedly break down the arguments of the prevailing opinion, and suddenly the eyes of thousands of those who were present and millions who later watched these debates online were opened, and they said this to themselves. Perhaps common sense is not fascism at all. It doesn't even smell like it, not even close. This is actually truer than what my professors and agitators say. And thousands, tens of thousands, as we know, of students began to speak up, object, argue, using Charlie's words, and became conduits of his ideas, voices of common sense. Charlie was removed. Every day in the United States, dozens of public opinion polls cover many topics. Listen to the results of the polls about voter registration. What does it mean? In the United States, when you go to register, when you say you want to be a voter, you can declare that you are. There's a section where you can say that you're for the Democrats, or you're for the Republicans, or you're for some other party, a minor party, or you can, I don't remember, you can leave it blank. Then you're kind of independent, or you just check the independent option and move along. It's none of your business, right? Now listen, yes, there's one more thing you can do. After you've registered, you can come at any time, I don't even know where, to some special points or whatever, who knows, I've never tried, and re-register. That is, from one party to another. Or you can write that you're independent and switch from independent to something else. It takes just a second.
Right now, we're getting voter registration data from the past 6 days, and all of it points to a huge surge toward the Republican Party. Our good friend Jack from Red Eagle Politics reports that the Republican Party got 1,200 new voter registrations in both Pennsylvania and North Carolina just in the past week, a major rise in both states. What does this suggest is happening here in terms of its evidential value? These numbers seem to completely reject the Democrats. For example, in Pennsylvania, the number of Democrats switching their registration to Republican is 3 times higher than the number of Republicans switching to Democrat. 3 times more Democrats are switching to Republicans than the other way around. And in North Carolina, the situation is even more pronounced. The number of Republican voter registrations in less than a week is 4 times higher than the usual average. 4 times just in the last 6 days. In Arizona, just in Maricopa County, there have been almost 1,000 new Republican registrations in the last 3 days. One testimony from a voter booth in Arizona is from Marisa Hamilton. She said that the nonpartisan voter registration table was at a small local event in a deeply Democratic area. This morning, almost everyone who passed by wanted to update their voter registration information. All of them registered as Republicans.
You can't imagine what a blow this is to the socialist fascist party that today calls itself Democratic. They are very democratically leading us into fascism, and not the made-up kind like Charlie Kirk, a fascist, but to the real kind, with gulags, shortages, and the division into the people and the servants of the people.
Now we find out that everything is even worse than the Democrats could have imagined in their most demonic nightmares. Just wait until you see this. But it's them! Their world, as we will see, is rightfully falling apart before our eyes. This mass trend of registering with the Republican Party is happening while the ultra-leftists from the New York Times have already called it a crisis of Democratic voter registration. The Times directly admitted that polls can be forgotten. Thus, they tacitly admit that the overwhelming majority of those polls they promote, including their own, are completely fake. Forget about the polls, the Democrats are openly losing voters. In every state where voter registration by party is tracked, which is 30 states, the Democrats are losing while the Republicans are gaining. In each of these 30 states where party registration is tracked, the Republicans are beating the Democrats.
It's not just Cork's death that affects young people, and actually not just young people either. Events begin to unfold around the murder that first leave Americans puzzled and then horrified. They start to realize, well, we follow the political life of most people, so to speak, though not really most people. They engage in politics just before elections, then return to their lives afterward. That's it, I did my part. Basically, leave me alone for the next 4 years. Now they start to understand what was happening during the years of the Democratic Party's rule, how these Komsomol fascists were turning our country away from freedom toward tyranny, step by step, little by little, move by move.
We're going to continue to talk about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. We're going to continue to talk about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. It's horrible. It's disgusting. This is one of the most significant political moments of our time. And of course, I've already shared my reaction to this and what it means. I spoke about the disgusting celebration of his death on the internet. And I understand that there is another group of people I want to address personally, since I myself am a member of this group, namely people who are leaving the left or even considering leaving the left. Given what we're seeing online, I can't help but think about the disgusting reactions and vile celebrations of his death. There must be people who are rushing to leave the left and saying, this doesn't reflect who I am as a person, this ideology no longer represents me. And there will probably be those who struggle with the thought that the left no longer represents them, that it's no longer a part of their identity. And they start to see how the fabric of their political structure or political worldview begins to tear and fall apart. And I want to address these people as a former leftist. I went through this myself, my own journey, many years ago. And if you are now on the left side and feel even a little of what I felt, then it must be 100 times stronger for you. From the experience I've been through now, I'm not urging people to leave the left and call themselves Republicans or conservatives. I'm not saying that I want you to come and accept the label of my group, although frankly, I'm probably center-right in my political views. All I'm advocating for is this. If you feel that the left no longer represents you as an individual, really think about it and follow that feeling. Don't feel judged for not following this. Don't think that you can't handle this feeling. Really explore this, because I think it's an extreme and celebratory reaction to Charlie Kirk's death. Some responses clearly show leftist ideology. If you dislike that, you dislike leftism.
There are few rights. By the way, with 3 million subscribers. It's clear that if you stop liking what the leftists are doing, then you've stopped being a leftist. By the way, this video got 1 million views in just one day. 1 million? That's how much this topic concerns Americans today. On Monday, United States Vice President Jay Devins appeared on the late Charlie Kirk's channel for a podcast where he declared war on everyone who tries to turn America towards socialism, Nazism, or any kind of totalitarianism through lies and violence.
Salaries. These terrorist sympathizers claim that Charlie Kirk, a loving husband and father, deserved to be shot in the neck because he said things they disagreed with.
How many times in American history have we repeated the words that are mistakenly attributed to Voltaire? I don't agree with a single thing you say, but I'm willing to die for your right to say it. That's a loose translation, but that's the essence. Actually, it was written by Evelyn Hall, a British writer who wrote a book about Voltaire and tried to convey the essence of his views and philosophy in it, so you could say it's Hall Voltaire. The founding fathers of the United States adopted this wonderful definition as the cornerstone of our republic. It's like a status. How should you behave in a situation when you disagree and would like to stop, but it's incredibly hard to stop yourself? Not to stop the other person, but to argue with them. To be civil about it. People should be free to say and do what they want, as long as they don't harm others' lives. It's an incredibly difficult concept to put into practice, but it can be cultivated in society, at least it can be taught. The outcome is unknown. And when it's not taught, people return to the jungle, where everyone does whatever they want, ignoring the desires, the lives, and the pain of others, the inhabitants of the jungle.
Or to terrorists. Did you know that George Soros's Open Society Foundation and the Ford Foundation, the groups that funded that disgusting article justifying Charlie's death, receive generous tax breaks? They are literally subsidized by you and me, American taxpayers. And how do they reward us? By setting fire to the house that the American family has built for over 250 years. I desperately want our country to unite in condemning the actions and ideas that killed my friend. I want this so much that I'm going to tell you a hard truth. We can only achieve this with people who acknowledge that political violence is wrong and unacceptable. And when we work on dismantling the institutions that contribute to violence and terrorism in our own country.
I hope you understand what this says. A possible future president of the United States of America who just said, no alliances, no compromises or indulgence for those who incite hostility within our country. This, gentleman, is a declaration of power and a declaration of war against the leaders of the opposition. And here is Stephen Miller, one of Trump's main advisors. His official position, I believe, is the first deputy to what is called the head of the president's office. If men set the direction, then Miller is the one who draws up the plan.
Coordinated doxing riots, street violence, and campaigns of dehumanization and defamation. publishing people's addresses combined with messages meant to provoke and incite violence, and in fact, organize cells that carry out and facilitate violence. This is a widespread movement of domestic terror. And with God as my witness, we'll use all our resources in the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, and across the government to identify, disrupt, dismantle, and destroy these networks and make America safe again for the American people. This will happen, and we will do it in Charlottesville.
This isn't being said to Vance, but to us. Vance already knows. This murder forced us to move from passive rejection and verbal struggle to holding accountable those who violate our laws and our Constitution.
The Trump administration has already targeted specific organizations. As you heard, JD named George Soros's Open Society Foundations and the Ford Foundation as primary targets, calling them financiers of terror supporters, and they will be held accountable for the violence they fund. Ironically, President Trump, as we reported weeks ago, has already been preparing for this for several months. Trump has already threatened to bring charges under the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act against Soros and his son Alexander, claiming that they financed violent protests and social unrest throughout the United States. And now, with Charlie's murder, they obviously have all the political cover they need, and it seems like they're now acting without any restraints. And I'll show you exactly what they are planning to dismantle the Democratic Party.
Neither Trump nor Vance nor yours truly want a one-party system, but we also don't want a Komsomol fascist party that might, well, turn around, Fortune, show your other side to take power not only in New York, but actually across the whole country. On what legal grounds can these scoundrels be stopped? We are not a dictatorship. We fight our enemies while respecting everyone and our laws, or else we become like them.
According to Stephen Miller and Jaron Vance, the Trump administration is preparing to bring charges under the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, conspiracy charges, and even sedition laws against what they call radical left-wing terrorist organizations. So, Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations is a criminal law originally created to fight the mafia. When prosecutors use racketeer-influenced and corrupt organizations, they're essentially claiming that you're running a criminal enterprise, not just committing individual crimes. And what's important here is that for more than 2 decades, observers have documented a troubling trend. Wherever civil unrest happens in America, and indeed around the world, the financial traces of George Soros always seem to appear. So, from the protests in Charlottesville in 2017 to the Black Lives Matter demonstrations in 2020, critics constantly point to the billionaire's extensive funding network as a common denominator. But that's not all. It goes far beyond Soros. Sources say the Trump administration is systematically targeting the Democratic Party's entire infrastructure. They are already investigating what Trump calls an organized campaign to assassinate Kirk. Meanwhile, cabinet members are working together to find organizations that fund or support violence against conservatives.
Who was saying no one is being jailed? It's taking too long, and you'll only believe it when someone is actually behind bars. I don't think you understand. To uncover everyone, or at least the main ones, you have to do a huge, titanic amount of work. Documents, phone calls, money transfers. You have to find the perpetrators, convince them to open up and tell the truth, make them prosecution witnesses. This isn't a month or 2 or even half a year. This could turn out to be a Herculean task. Also, the other side isn't just sitting quietly. They have informants, they have leverage, they can silence many people, but thank God not everyone.
What Trump has planned here will make the left's hysteria over Project 2025 look like a walk in the park. Project 2025 has just received a powerful boost. The left literally has no idea what they've unleashed. Many are increasingly recognizing that last week was truly a turning point. Or more prophetically, you could call it a turning point for our country. And the key to this turning point, as you heard in the wonderful monologue by J.D. Vance earlier, is that it's not about healing political divisions. It's about achieving a complete and unconditional victory. JD made it clear that this is not a both sides issue. We categorically refuse, we morally refuse to even entertain the thought that we are divided. We share the blame for what happened to Charlie. That's what the desperate reaction from both sides on the left demands of us. This requires us to take at least partial responsibility for what happened to Charlie. And the only correct response to this is to go to
Here is J.D. Vance again about Charlie on the Turning Point channel, Turning Point.
real unity, which can only come when we tell the truth. And everyone knows that they can express their opinions on the issues of the day without fearing being shot by a killer.
The president and his administration have declared the political responsibility of their radical elements. Well, first of all, it's the leftist, liberal, so-called circles that created an atmosphere of hatred, an atmosphere that contributed to this and many other tragedies. Let me show you something as an example, and then I'll explain why I'm showing it to you.
Trump is trying to change the Constitution by denying the right to citizenship to those born in America, so to speak. And a lot of people are saying, yeah, it's about time. What's with this freebie? Look at how Argentina is suffering from a similar law. It's time for us to do something like that. It's time for us to refuse it too. And the Constitution, well, what's so sacred about the Founding Fathers? They wrote it a long time ago. It's time for new Founding Fathers to come, or let's say rewriting fathers. And right before my eyes, many Americans, something I also predicted, after the natural excitement of Trump will come and restore order, we need our own Joker, it's time to change the political system, are now changing their views. A lot of Americans are saying that there is a risk of fascization, a direct fascization of the country. History always gives us a unique chance to observe. Subtitles. As always, we can clearly see how this movement is growing, not only from the top, but also from the bottom. How so many people long for fascism, how they want to experience the thrill of unanimity, how they want to take it out on migrants. There's hope that this time it won't be Jews, but Latin Americans, though that doesn't make it any easier, you know? Because if they start rounding up Mexicans or closing America to those seeking political asylum, that's really not much better than Hitler's measures. And not much better than Kristallnacht.
What cunning web for fools is this enemy weaving? And he is an enemy of mine, yours, of America. He hates us. He openly calls us fascists, saying that stopping illegal migration is the same as Kristallnacht. Well, he meant, of course, the Night of Broken Glass in 1938 in Germany. Just to be clear, on that night from November 9th to 10th, 91, Jews were killed in more than 30,000. I don't remember the exact number. More than 30,000 Jews were arrested. The men were arrested and sent to concentration camps where they died. History doesn't mention any. Who, after this Night of Broken Glass, actually Kristallnacht, if you translate it exactly from German, really, who after that night? Well, you mean crystal knives? Yes, that's right. In addition, more than 7,000 Jewish businesses and homes were destroyed or damaged. 267 synagogues, schools, cemeteries, and libraries were looted and destroyed. And this Komsomol member fascist Bykov, calls that this was the best. Then what? The deportation of illegal immigrants from the United States, meaning the capture of people who crossed our border without our permission, which means they committed a crime, and their expulsion from the country. Is this equal to or worse than the Night of Broken Glass in 1938 in Germany? Well, that's a fine how do you do.
But Trumpism is a cancer of a completely new kind, a malignant tumor that America in general has not known before. And many believe that a country cannot be considered mature until it goes through this trial. It will be very difficult to make a choice here, and I'm sure many people are in this situation. If Trump and Putin end up in the same kind of conflict, God forbid, of course, as Stalin and Hitler, then the world will simply be facing a global war. If they first become friends, make peace, sign a non-aggression pact, what they now call the Trump-Putin 2025 pact, and then 2 years later fall out with each other. Such regimes can't coexist in one place, making moral choices difficult.
So, what do you think? Is Bykov really so foolish that he doesn't understand what Trump is doing? And that there isn't a single country in the world that recognizes as its citizens those who were born there purely by accident? He knows, yes, but he's trying to scare people. Why? That's the question. Because there are millions of listeners and they eat it up. They get scared, wet themselves at night, and then run back to watch and listen to that crap again. I mean the poet and prose writer D. Bykov, a Jew who hates his own, a lawyer, and himself.
Despite all our sympathies for Zelensky, for Ukraine may turn out to be a pawn of Poland from the partition that began with the pact of two great powers. This could happen, and people are already openly discussing this partition. It's very hard to imagine what kind of choice we would have to make then. And where is that America? Could it be in Antarctica, the one political immigrants will flee to? Well, I hope that right now we have a very good chance, I would say a Rudin-like chance. Considering Turgenev's novel, yes, giving up Russia, but not giving up Amira.
Shopping at Navalny's store helps support Anti-Corruption Foundation's work. You get some nice memorable merch, and we get the funds to fight Putin and continue Alexei's cause. The store keeps us independent and strong in tough times. Support us.
The master of verbal diarrhea, Mark Fagan, is stirring up hatred for Trump among Ukrainians. The question is, why is he doing this? This is incredibly beneficial for Moscow. The more Ukrainians hate Trump, the longer the war will last, and the more territory Russia will seize. Maybe it's the war. She's like a mother to Fagan, or maybe Russia is like a mother to Fagan, who knows?
Pay attention to the topic. A lot of information is leaking about the subject of Witkoff's conversation. Well, the absolutely corrupt Witkoff by Russian standards, how are they influencing us?
Trump sent someone to meet with Putin who is absolutely pro-Russian and absolutely corrupt. Well, back in the 17th or 18th century, for an insult, especially without facts or documents, they would usually challenge you to a duel.
Most commentators note, in particular the most authoritative among them, the Ministry of Strange Affairs or the OBR, that there was a discussion in the center about some kind of territorial exchange. Well, the point is that freezing the situation along the line of contact is practically a settled issue, but it is still being discussed. Perhaps this means moving away from this line in the other direction.
So Trump is deciding the issue of dividing Ukraine behind its back. Gentlemen, how about this? Fight your own damn war as much as you want. Whatever you can capture, whatever you can liberate, it's all yours. Do as you please, however you see fit, and we'll go mind our own business. They are, well, much closer to us than yours are, just like your own affairs are closer to you than ours. We'll let Ukraine and Russia resolve things themselves. Why do they paint a picture that Trump and his corrupt pro-Russian colleagues are dividing Ukraine with Putin? Only for one reason, so that Ukrainians would hate Trump, see betrayal in his every move, and refuse any ceasefire, so that Ukrainians would keep fighting the war. Who benefits from this, you may ask? Who needs this, you may ask? Does the Kremlin need this? First, the office of the President of Ukraine needs this. Second, European and American arms manufacturers need this. Third, Ukrainian military recruiters need this, as they make millions by helping young people avoid the draft. And in this way, the war, the killings, the destruction, which benefits certain people, continues so that money keeps flowing into the pockets of scoundrels chosen by fools. It's an uneasy mix of scoundrels and fools. To be continued. And to keep the people in a state of idiocy, they've hired Fagin and Piankovsky, Yakovlevitches, and all sorts of other Zhernovs and Schweitzes. By the way, I don't think Bykov was hired. He's such a jerk, although undoubtedly a talented prose writer and even a poet, that you don't even have to pay him for the feverish, self-obsessed nonsense he spouts. Why did I show you these Russian-speaking sycophants? I was talking about America and the English-speaking audience, right? The thing is, it will be clearer to you what the leftists were doing here in America with Soros's money. There and others using examples that are familiar to you, related to, say, Russia, Ukraine, and so on. It's exactly this pumping up the public with hatred toward Trump, Vance, Loon, Musk, Charlie, and in general toward Make America Great Again. Make America Great Again, what a horror. It's Make America Great Again. Make America Great Again, or Make America Magnificent Again. What a nightmare. That's what they're doing. And so successfully that mentally unstable people, like Thomas Matthew Crooks, who shot at Trump, Luigi Mangione, who killed the insurance company director by shooting him in the back, Taylor Robinson, who is similar and is the killer of Kirk. They become inflamed with hatred and an obsessive idea to kill, to eliminate. If you don't eliminate the cause, why does violence happen and hatred and murder? They will continue. If you don't remove the pus, it will spread and grow. The country needs to return to the understanding that dialogue can be conducted without hatred and violence. Young people need to be taught that tolerance does not mean, if you disagree with me, I'll kill you. In general, people need to learn to resolve conflicts not with a rock to the head or a knife in the back, but in some other way. And we need to start dealing with those who pay to incite conflicts. Well, because of the violence, of course, yes. Just like in the United States in colleges, and also, let's say, in Israel in various places. For some reason, they started being called Palestinian, even though they're located in the territory of Judea and Samaria. Someone is paying for the violence. As soon as they stop paying, the violence will be 10, maybe even 100 times less. KAM, it's the same there as it is here. The filth needs to be cleaned out. Goodbye until we meet again.